Welcome everyone to Startup Grind
I'm
Phoenix.
starting to recognize some people, so I'm just saying.
Yeah. please, and please use the chat. Again, I said I put everyone on mute for right now, just for the beginning, but then we'll come off mute, and I would love for people to ask Maria questions at the end. So I hope everyone has a beverage with them and maybe a little snack, but we're gonna kick it off tonight. Startup Grind, we typically have our events in person, but we host one event a month, and Startup Grind is one of the largest organizations that helps startups. There's 500 chapters in 125 countries, and I am lucky enough to run the one here. So we have a couple mottos. One is make friends, not contacts, which I love because I've made actually a lot of good friends at Startup Grind. Some of them are here today, our volunteers. Believe in giving, not taking, and helping others before you help yourself. We have two sponsors, Pool Curry Law and Downtown PHX. Thank you both for sponsoring us. We are excited to continue in-person events, but for right now, this is great because we can reach so many people. I think Maria said we might have some people on from Puerto Rico, so that's really exciting for Startup Grind Phoenix. So without further ado, we just get right to it. So I will introduce Maria Luna, CEO and co-founder of Bravo Pay. Thank you, Maria, for being here. Cheers.
Cheers.
With my sparkling water. Cheers to everybody else.
Regular water. Hi, everyone.
We're real crazy over here. So, Maria, I want to get to how you're dealing with COVID, but we have more to talk about before that. So we're just going to dive right in about who you are and what makes Maria tick. So I would love to know, as a kid, what did you want to do? Where did you grow up? And what was it like to be you?
That's a profound question. I think it's an eternal discovery until we pass to another state from this physical body, right? But I am still in that quest. However, since very early in my life, I knew that there were things that will make my heart sing, and entrepreneurship has always been there in my life, one way or the other. To give you an example, as a little kid, I figured out that if I made interesting things and sold them, I could make a little bit of money. When I went to the university, I started cooking for all of the girls. We were 14 in the house, so I said, okay, I'll cook for you and make money that way. So that was that part of me. And the other thing that makes my heart sing is just connecting with people, helping out. The world is more than just myself, and that those two things I would say define me in many ways.
And I read in your profile, in your bio that you sent over to me, you grew up in pretty extreme poverty. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I always say I grew up in extreme poverty, but I was born a billionaire in support and love. I had an amazing family, and also neighbors and teachers that cared about me. They were allowed by my mother to take care of me, help me shape my world, and to them I am forever grateful. Good teachers that showed me the value of education. And through education, I was able to pursue my career and do other stuff and be here now.
They always say it takes a village, right?
It does.
You had lots
it still does in Arizona. I go a lot to my community.
Absolutely. We'll get into that too a little bit. So you were the first one in your family to go to college. Where did you go to school? Why did you decide to go to school?
Well, first was an easy decision because it was almost free. It wasn't free. We had to pay, like, at the time was like $15 per credit, which was very good.
That's a steal. Yeah.
Yeah. It was at the University of Puerto Rico. That's where I did my bachelor's degree. And then after that, I worked for 2 years and saved money. And then I went to do my master's degree at the University of Texas in Austin, where I did an MBA. And that, right?
Puerto Rico to Texas. What made you go to Texas?
Well, another economic decision for me, because that university, I applied to 20 different places through a consortium, that allowed me to send with $75. I could apply to 20 universities, and I'm very grateful to them as well. So from the universities that I applied, I was accepted in many of them. But the thing was, I I said, okay, from them, let me look at the ranking and the cost. And then I picked UT, and I was very lucky that that they were one of the universities. And my whole education ended up costing me like maybe 20,000, because I ended up being a teacher's assistant, and I ended up doing it in a very cost-effective way.
All the parents in this are taking notes. They're like, okay, what are these things? And TAs? Yep.
Oh, I researched for 2 years how to do it, the leanest way.
Oh, and this is a theme, which we will get back to. So from your undergraduate degree and your master's, is there anything that you took that you still use today?
Oh, a lot of things, but I would say probably doing a lot with a little bit, because that was something, that has carried through my entire life. And I don't think, even, let's say, some people tell me, but once you become a money printing machine, and Bravo's a household name and this and that, or you raise in the hundreds of millions, I think I would still apply the same concept to do the most you can with stretching those dollars and making good use of the money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's how you stay with money, right? So after school, you went into the corporate world. Before you get into your career there, why not just go jump and start a business, since you had entrepreneurship on your mind?
I think I like to, obviously we plan things and then life happens. But at the time I thought, okay, I just graduated and I need to, although I did it in a very, cost-effective way, because when I say 20 grand, it included everything. I mean, my expenses, everything. But it was thanks to the teaching assistant position that I was able to get eventually. But I decided, okay, let me get some experience, work right away, because I knew, entrepreneurship is great, but there's a lot of sacrifices that go with it. And I needed to make money, pay my debt, help my family out, take care of myself and build a future. So I started working. My first job was with Nabisco in Mexico. And I got different offers, but I thought that will force me like so much out of my comfort zone. And although Nabisco is a very well-known company and funded, at the time, the challenge was to launch in Mexico a product, Oreo, which here is very well known, but in Mexico it wasn't. And there were a lot of challenges with budgets and stuff. So I thought it was an interesting challenge. And that taught me a lot about doing stretching those dollars again, being lean, and I learned a lot about co-marketing.
Oh, what's one thing you learned about co-marketing to share with all the entrepreneurs here?
Well, my sales goals at the time in the marketing department were very high, and the majority of the money, the challenge was that was already committed to TV. But in Mexico, there's a lot of complexities in the biscuits market. It's very complex. We needed to do a lot of demonstrations in the stores. There's 70% of the distribution at the time happened in mom and pops. So there was no resources to really fully launch in those channels. Yeah. So I then partnered with people that wanted to market their milk or other products that were kind of like, will go with us, will not compete. Yeah. And I knocked on doors and people thought I was crazy, but I just thought, why not ask? And I mean, the last thing they can tell me is no, and a shocker. Exactly. So I asked, and then I got a couple of brands that thought it was innovative, and we did co-marketing in the supermarkets and mom and pop stuff.
See, this is like lesson number one, the theme is lean startup. through this whole thing. So after that, after you left Nabisco, what happened?
At the time, Mexico, it's a wonderful country, but it's complex
I have lived there as well. Very complex.
So it was a combination of factors. I was very happy with my job, and it was very fulfilling that way. But the peso devaluated like in a stupendous way. A lot of things happened around me on different levels, personal, business, etc. So I thought it's time to, I have to leave. And then I accepted a job at a hospital that needed somebody for international marketing. And they wanted somebody that will be able to produce like big events and bring doctors together to meet doctors from all over the world and their doctors. And I thought it was a nice challenge, something, again, outside of my zone. And whenever I did job searches or changes, I always kept in mind, I want to be an entrepreneur. So I try to challenge myself to learning
different things every time.
Exactly. So that required a lot of traveling, a lot of coordination, and again, lean. Because it was a hospital, it was a very successful hospital, but we needed to do it with limited resources. So
yeah.
I was very proud of my job there. And after that, I met a lot of people from the pharmaceutical industry. And you start to make a name in the sense of, she's somebody that produces results with little.
She gets things done.
And, yeah, she gets things done. And so I was invited by a pharmaceutical company to join them in Puerto Rico. And I was just like, this is a dream come true, go back to my island. And I took the job, and I learned a lot too. I volunteered there to do lean launches. They were looking at certification, somebody that would just like love that and certify in lean launches. And I'm like, hey, me. So I did that, and with a lot of great experiences as well.
So what I'm hearing from you, for anyone that's wanting to start a business but maybe doesn't want to just go, it's you have looked for different positions along the way and always been the one with your hand up to say, hey, let me try that, to kind of gain the experience along
I try to identify things that I need, I thought, or
need a little work on.
Yeah, I need to learn or work more with that. And that's why I was never afraid of volunteering for those type of things. In the middle of that, you're like, what did I do? Because it is sometimes it's fighting into a lot. But one of the things that I learned doing those things is that whenever I call them the big monster. So if you have a big project ahead of yourself, and if you see at the entirety of it, it can consume you in a way that doesn't let you move forward. But when you piece it out in little pieces, and then it's conquerable. So I started conquering the monster in this phase and this phase, and all of a sudden you did it.
And just a side note, did you ever find things where, like accounting or something that you're like, okay, I have learned that no matter how big that monster is, I just don't want to tackle it. I'll find somebody else. What are your thoughts on being the all-in-one, or do you like to outsource different things?
I do. And for example, in Bravo, accounting is a great experience, a great example. Actually, during my master's degree, it was the most boring class. No.
Me too.
No offense to accountancy, if there's anybody. And I love accountants. They're great. But I really found it like, it's not my cup of tea, but I have had to do it. And the moment I could just take that off my hands, that was the first thing I outsourced.
Yeah, absolutely. My brother is what we call a recovering accountant. So at some point you made the move to become a consultant. What made you jump into that and test the waters?
Because I thought that was the perfect thing in
That's what I was
between.
just gonna say. Perfect
Yeah,
transition.
between being working for somebody else and then doing your own thing. And I wanted to prove that I could market myself first of all. After so many years in the corporate world, you start thinking, okay, can I just be out there and convince people to hire me to do this? And then you just need your first job, and after that, please customers refer normally. So that was a way of testing the waters, and I liked it a lot, and I learned a lot too.
And how did you continue to build your confidence around that?
Well, if you know me, confidence is probably not something I need to work much on.
Well, maybe some recommendations to others.
I need to work on a lot of stuff, but I'm probably like, I wouldn't say I'm fearless. I just like, I believe in myself, and I believe in people around me.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of self-doubt. No, don't get me wrong. I self-doubt a lot. But to give you an example, one day I told my husband, hey, do you think this necklace is too big for my clothes? And he told me, Maria, it's too big for you. And I'm like, it depends how you position it. So, so yeah, going back to your question, I think the reason why I wasn't afraid of asking or for business or presenting my services was because I knew I could provide value.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I did for customers was help them find ways where they were throwing money outside of the window, and I
Bringing
knew
that lame thing back. Yep.
And then the other thing I did for customers was helping them find ways to reach other markets that they were not even considering, or that sort of thing. So those two things that could add value, I just it was not even a sale. It was just like, hey, let me show you that I can help you with this. And if I don't help you, don't pay me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's the way to go. It's like, okay, if you don't find value, okay. So moving on to Bravo in your current life, how did that come about? And I've heard a little bit of it, but I'd love to hear more.
Well, it's a story I've shared many times, but in essence, we were hiking. We didn't have money to pay a stranger. And then we thought there should be a way of people paying each other without having to share any information, and in a way that you feel secure in entering your information. So I personally don't like to share or don't like the fact that people monetize on my data. So we thought, why not create a way where people can feel safe? They know I'm not going to sell their data and pay a stranger. So we went for the most logical vertical initially, which was tipping in the service industry. But we knew it was, pun intended, the tip of the iceberg, and there were other verticals to come. Actually, I saw amongst the people that registered today a wonderful man that I pitched the idea of Bravo and believed in me. So I want to say thank you. And he's a mentor and somebody I admire a lot. But going back to that moment, I knew that there was an idea there. And then we just embarked into this crazy thing.
When you say we, was it you?
My co-founder and I.
Yeah. Okay.
It was actually his idea in the sense that he came up with the whole thing. Hey, how about if you find them by proximity and all of that? And he worked in the wireframes, and immediately I did the market research, and we just were very excited about it.
And so you have this idea, it's coming together. What's next?
Well, first we wanted to understand customers, because if you don't have people that get excited about it, then you don't have a business. So I started talking to people about it without even having the app. So we started with wireframes and drawings, lean again, because I
Yeah.
mean, if you build an app, you're already putting.
That's an investment. Yeah.
So I did, I would say like over 500 interviews without an app. And
Wow.
then we built the minimum viable product and started testing. We started with 25 users by invitation, and then went from there. And now I'm super excited to announce that next, in a couple of weeks, we're going to release it first to a group of people to test it. And then we're going to release it to the general public, the version next, where again, talking about other verticals, we started with service professionals, and due to this pandemic, they're suffering a lot, right? So artists, content creators, a lot of people that need to be paid started growing in our user base because they need to connect and get paid virtually. There's not that exchange. So we are facilitating that, and then we decided to accelerate and launch other solutions. And now we're going to add the ability to explore people without even having to pay them, so you can see what they do, what they're about, what they post on the same app. Pay them, publish your content, sell exclusive content and experiences for the content creators, all in one place. And what you kill is what you eat, pretty much, for people.
So the pandemic, that was my first question on my last startup grind. How are you handling this pandemic? Sounds like you're just innovating left and right.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, it was not something, it was in the pipeline. What we decided to do is like, okay, let's put everybody behind it and push this out. But one thing I have to say about the pandemic is, first of all, my heart goes out to everybody. Because, I mean, if you're a human, you're suffering from this one way or the other, out of your own skin or compassion or whatever it is. So the first thing. And then about our team and how we faced it, the first thing we did was, okay, everybody home, let's be safe first and foremost. And right after that, how do we save the resources, prepare for what's coming? It's a big storm. We don't know how, the big monster, how we're going to face it. And we started obviously looking at every single place where we could, without sacrificing the product out there, we could be even more lean. The good thing is there was a lot of experience, because that's the way we've been operating. So, securing the finances, then I contacted immediately my investors, so they knew that we were here to stay and we were going to thrive through this. And we started working and put the whole team after, how are we going to launch this and launch it with success. We contacted our ambassadors and so forth.
And tell me a little bit about the work that you guys have been doing too on side of this. I know you were working with some musical groups.
Yes,
tell me a little bit more about
way
that.
we have done this so lean and grown with a lot has been through our community first. We started with, like I mentioned, 25 ballet attendants, and from there we started growing. We partnered with Can't Stop the Blues, which is a Facebook group that keeps the blues going, and every night they have 2 to 3 different musicians that come and perform, and they accept Bravo. We partnered with Alice Cooper Solid Rock. Alice Cooper is a wonderful human being, and he has a group of musicians that are also accepting tips via Bravo. We partnered with big figures like Mike Stud, who is a R&B artist, and he has a very successful podcast. And I mean, I could go on and on, but what we are doing is, through our ambassadors, we're reaching out their fan base, and we are now paving the way for the big launch. So more to come on that, but I'm super excited about that.
Well, congrats on that. So she obviously, Maria hasn't been learning another language or doing a lot of yoga. She's been working.
Well,
So,
funny enough is I'm trying yoga now.
It's great. It's great. Convince Jamie. So that comes to my next question. You know, I'm married to an entrepreneur. I know what craziness it is. How do you balance your life with being a founder and being a CEO and all of that with having a regular life?
I don't. I don't balance it.
This is where Maria might need some of your tips.
To be super honest, I take it a day at a time. And there are days that I'm a wonderful wife, I hope. And there are days that I'm terrible. And that's part of the deal. And we both know that whenever something is missing or not done, it's because, and the other one is there to help and or avoid each other if the day is bad for both of us. He's also an entrepreneur. He's a physician, but he is a brilliant guy. He's into a lot of projects and stuff. So to be honest, I never even think of the word balance.
Yeah.
Never.
No, you're just like, oh,
I just live.
It sounds like you have the right partnership. So that's what really matters.
And my dogs keep me sane.
Yeah. Yep. Dogs are the best stress relief. Before I get into Arizona and giving back, one other question I had for you was funding. People, especially new entrepreneurs, always get wrapped up in funding. How did you go about funding Bravo Pay? How did you approach it?
First, yoga. No, I'm kidding.
Clear your mind.
Yes. I always say this. When you read the statistics about a woman or a Latino woman raising money, you just start running. But I started the other way around. And
See, fearless.
So I just think that as long as you create value, and that is going to come. So first and foremost, I invested in our own idea. Mm-hmm. So some money that I saved through the years, I had that there. So the other thing was, I think one or two of my investors they're local, and they're just wonderful people that want to bring you with them to the top, and I forever will be grateful. And that's how I have done it. I continue to pitch. I actually have 2 pitch meetings coming soon. But we are wired and prepared to operate in any budget scenario and progress. And that is the most important thing. If there are entrepreneurs listening, is that you have to have that. And then you say, okay, plan A is this with these resources, and then plan B and plan C, and then you like I always say, you walk, you crawl, you walk, you run, and just be prepared to operate on at different levels. And so a pandemic like this, it's less scary. And thank you to my investors too.
Oh, always thank you. Any advice for preparing a pitch? Like what to put in, what to take out?
That is a funny thing, because if you show your pitch deck to 100 different people, you're gonna get 100 different recommendations, and everybody's gonna tell you it's wrong. So I think and it's true. It's a work in progress. I would say obviously the obvious. One of the best advice I got was, if you're excited about what you have, put it up front, because it is your product, your baby, your service, whatever it is. So I try, when I pitch about Bravo, I try to explain immediately and go into what Bravo is and what Bravo does, and how it's helping people. I paint the picture of the people behind it. There's not a right way. Actually, one of my investors that is listening probably is going to laugh, because I did the most horrible work pitching Bravo to him, I think. But I think he is somebody that sees beyond the
The
all the
nerves. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, he probably saw something besides the pitch deck. And that's the most important thing, what it's authentic, the passion that it's behind it, and the value that you bring to the market should be there. And if it's a smart investor, they're gonna, see what it's the essence, and then you can perfect the other things.
Absolutely. So getting into our lovely state of Arizona, which I do think has such a giving community. I mean, sorry, California, but I'm going to throw you under the bus. That's where I came from. Why Arizona, and why are you so passionate about this community?
Well, like I mentioned, I was born in Puerto Rico, so that is my community 1.0, I say. And I am forever proud and thankful for them. And then Arizona is my community 2.0, and I feel as welcome, as appreciated. Actually, the Senate of Arizona invited me one day to speak about Bravo. I mean, that
That's
was
really cool.
a super cool experience. So, and then the whole community, I don't want to offend anybody, not mentioning a group or a business that has not collaborated with us, because there's so many. And that I love. And that I feel I belong here.
Yeah. Is there if there were new entrepreneurs to either the state or just to startup life, is there anything that you would recommend people join, or books or podcasts or anything that's helped you? You already told me a book, so I'm excited.
Well, I try to read at least a lot of people would say, I try to read a book every day or every week. Good for you. Great for you. I try to read at least a page every day of different books that I have going. I mentioned to you, I recently read a book called Steal Like an Artist that has nothing to do apparently with entrepreneurship, but I found a lot of pearls of wisdom there. The last name of the author is Cleon with a K. And also The Tipping Point is a book that I'm about to finish, and I really recommend it. What else?
Is there any book that you read that was like, oh, this is my thing?
I would say a lot, but what I say is that it's more connecting all of the books that you read in a way that start to make sense. And I think books come to you like anything in life, in a magical way, that somehow you need to learn something here and there from different books. I read a book that has nothing to do with entrepreneurship, again, that's called Siddhartha. And it was written by Hermann Hesse. He was a Nobel Prize winner, and it was given to me on a birthday. So I read it when I was 23, and then I revisited it now when I'm 23 plus some. And
25.
Yeah, 23 plus 25. And then it just like turned into something different. So I say, don't be afraid of reading different stuff. Of course, you read things about business and whatnot, but I find personally that I learn more for business when I read outside of the typical do this, 7 habits of do that, and whatnot.
Look, also lets your brain come down and just kind of be creative. Mm-hmm. Listen to a story like you're a kid.
Subscribe to The Fantastic Life. It's an email that I receive every week with a lot of wisdom. It's sent by Craig Coppola from Lee and Associates, and it's a great source of different pearls of wisdom. I listen to a lot of podcasts here and there, not regularly, but there's one from Andy Leon. Or Lyon, I think she pronounces it Lyon, with Lyon. She's from Boston, and she's every time she has an interesting person that you can learn a lot from.
Absolutely. Oh, good tips. Thank you. So before we get to, well, I have some more questions for you, but audience, think of your questions because we're going to have you ask them. What inspiring female entrepreneurs, why is that so important to you? And what are you doing in the community to help?
I wouldn't say inspire. I would use the word help realize that they can be empowered.
Gotcha.
Because I am one, so you tend to identify with normally with who you are in your core. But I see a lot of women struggle with many things. One is the self-doubt that educationally we are, I don't know, wired or trained that way. So we need to do that. And my husband has been also a great source for me to kind of like see a lot of things. Like sometimes he says, you start apologizing even before breathing. So those kind of things. It's important that you realize you don't have to. I don't know if you saw the debate, the Democratic Party debate, where there were women and men, and they asked women, would you ask for forgiveness or something like that? And all the women were asked forgiveness, and all the men were like, no, I would just So that thing, I just think being conscientious about it, it's empowering. Mm-hmm. So the other thing for me, it's important is, yes, we want to help the world. We're giving, we're nurturing, but you have to have a money printing machine in your company if you want to then really, help others. What I mean is, put your seatbelt or your oxygen first, and then you're going to be able to be nurturing. And success is not only money. I just mentioned that as an example, but whatever it is that you do, be thriving at it so you can help more people. And unfortunately, I learned that from men, but I try to also share that message with other women.
And can you tell me, because the roller coaster of being an entrepreneur, there's the highs and lows. What's been the highest high with Bravo Pay and the lowest low? And how did you navigate each of them? Because sometimes the highs are kind of challenging as well.
Wow, that is a deep, interesting.
It's Wednesday night and I'm getting deep.
Okay, so I think probably the highest high was one day we were about to fold. That close. So when you are, or you are even considering, because I mean, that in an entrepreneur mentality, it's never there. But if ever crosses, I think, and then talking to my team and having everybody ready to stay, even without any immediate reward, was probably the highest high.
Wow.
And a lot of people expect me to say, oh, when I shake Mark Cuban's hand, I pitch in the Shark Tanks and whatever. That was a great experience.
Yeah, that's fun.
And that was, I proved to myself that, you can put yourself into any situation and survive. But I think that the highest high is when you have a team ready to stick with you no matter what. And that was a big responsibility, come with a lot of love and a lot of, I cannot describe.
Yeah.
And the lowest, that was the highest and the lowest.
I feel like those went together.
Yeah, but I would say, yeah, one thing takes to the other, but every day is like this, and every week is different, and that's the beauty and the scary part too.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you look for, this will probably help other people that are looking to hire. What do you look for people? How do you know they're going to be a good teammate and sacrifice like that?
Well, I learned the hard way in the corporate world. I grew up, let me just say that there, so it ties up. I grew up thinking everybody was good. Like no matter what, every single human being was good. And then I learned that not necessarily that evil exists, but I choose not to give jobs or business or, buy things from evil or let's not say evil, but let's say jerks in general.
Mhm.
And a jerk can be a man or a woman. So if you then start to realize that they're going to come to your life for free, you don't have to pay for them. And they come and teach you lessons and whatnot, but you shouldn't give them business. So then I start to open my eyes. And in the interview, even during the interview, I look for clues. I look for, and I even communicate the culture I want to have in the company. And I always tell them the good, the bad, and the ugly, what they're going to face, what it's really like. So the ones that stay, it's like because they are crazy like me and they want to. But I look for kindness in people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You
probably,
can work the other, you can teach a lot of things. And
hiring is definitely a challenge sometimes, but yeah, people will show their true colors. What do you see for Bravo Pay, let's just say 10 years down the road? Are there some big ideas that you really want to see come through, or personal goals that you have for yourself?
well, this is what I see. Um, we're created with a purpose, and we are driven by that purpose, and we are delivering that since day one. So it's just a matter of delivering that purpose for more people, in essence, in terms of the market. In terms of the people that believe first in us, our employees and our investors, I would love, not in 10 years, way sooner than that, pay back and look at them in the eye and say thank you, um, and see the rewards of that trust.
Yeah,
Um, and more than anything, continue to empower people to make more money doing what they love.
love that. And is there any way for us as a community in Arizona and outside of Arizona, what can we do to help you?
Thank you. I think, well, if you follow us on social media, that would be a great help, because we're going to start doing announcements about the VNext, version next of Bravo. And that is something that can be used by everybody to connect with their friends, to pay their friends, and also to explore interesting people. To give you an example, if you want to see private things, that Richard Sherman will start posting his workouts and, exclusive content for people on Bravo, you're going to be able to see that. So if you follow us on social media and download Bravo and update the app when we launch the VNext, that would be a great help. And also contact me. I'm on Instagram. I think I am Maria _CEO Bravo or something like that.
Yeah.
But if you find me on Instagram and DM me, messages like direct messages feed us, because as an entrepreneur, we are lonely many times. And I love it when other entrepreneurs reach out to me. It's a symbiotic thing. We sometimes it's just a psychological thing. You need somebody to tell you, it's tough, but stay there. Or sometimes it's just nice to hear from people. So
I always think sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to be bothering them, but
oh no, no, no. I'm
what's
also
the worst that can happen? They say they don't answer.
I'm also on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn and Instagram are the two best ways to directly message me. And I respond sometimes not immediately, because I have, multiple things to do, but I try to respond in a decent amount of time.
Well, I reached out to you on LinkedIn, so I can prove that she definitely reaches back on LinkedIn. Well, Rebecca has a really good question, so I'm going to ask this, and then I'm going to go through a little 20 rapid fire silly questions, and then we'll get to some audience questions, because I know people have some questions. But Rebecca, I'll read your question, and then if you have another one, you can ask it. In a post-COVID-19 world, how would you recommend approaching investors as a woman in tech hardware space in a male-dominated grocery category? Great question, Rebecca.
Well, the way I am doing it myself, I mean, not in the groceries category, but believe me, no matter which category you're going to look at, is male dominated, unfortunately. But I mean, nothing against men, don't take me wrong, but it's just it's a reality. It's like all of the investment, 96% of the investments go to men, and that is something to think about. But I started a list of funds that are known for investing in women in a more fair way, because men and women, we all have interesting ideas. So at least I want to a plain level field. And life
Yeah,
balance,
exactly.
no
This is
balance. I'm in the
good.
middle of an interview. So I was saying, oh, so I try to reach those funds that I know from the get-go are gonna look at me as good as any other person. And you have to knock a lot of doors. You're gonna hear a lot of no's, and just don't let that bug you. You just like, okay, good, no. What's my next yes? And it's an everyday thing.
Do you have a pep talk or a song, like once you get a no, that kind of reworks you up, you know? There's like a little ritual that you do, because it's hard when you get knocked down. It is really hard.
Maybe at the beginning, I there is this song. Now I don't do it anymore because it you know, you get uh, scars. Like, okay, then the next. But I think at the beginning there's a song, but it's in Spanish, that it tells about that. It says something like this. A lot of people have told me that I'm good for nothing, but I believe in me. Basically, that's the translation. Yeah.
Yeah, it may seem silly, but those little rituals help.
Yeah. And I have had those. I have had people tell me in my face, no, I'm not even interested in talking to you or listening to you. And I'm like, okay, Maria, you can. Who's the
You
next?
got this.
You got it.
Well, thank you. I've really enjoyed hearing your story. I know people have questions, but I'm going to do a little rapid fire, and then I'll ask for people if they want to come off mute and ask a question. That would be awesome, because number one, it's just nice to see other people. Not that I don't love my husband. So couple questions just so we can get to know you as a person. Let's see. Number one, favorite type of food?
Type. Oh, that's a difficult one. Puerto Rican. I'm Puerto Rican.
Okay, what kind of Puerto Rican food? Like, what are we
Uh,
talking here?
Arroz con pollo is my favorite. Like
Oh,
it's our like, version of the paella, but it's rice with chicken and some beans on the side and avocado.
comfort food. Favorite dog?
I have to say Chihuahuas or mine are going to get mad at me, but I love all kinds of dogs.
App on your phone that you use the most?
Bravo.
Shameless plug. What is your favorite thing to do in Arizona when it's hot,
When it's
other
hot.
than work?
Oh yeah. When it's hot, I do a lot of watercoloring, so I told you that. But I can do that outside of Arizona though. So when it's hot, it's really hot outside. So I'm staying inside a lot. When it's not hot, I love hiking, but
Ooh, favorite hike?
very close to my house. I'm terrible at knowing the name of the mountains and stuff like that. So Hector always laugh about that about me. But it's in the DC Ranch area. So if you walk near the
The
village,
loop?
the loop behind the village is
Yeah.
it's really nice.
Let's see. These are not very rapid fire because I am not thinking that quickly. And last two. Favorite restaurant that you can't wait to go back to?
Trato. If it's in,
Oh, me too.
yeah,
So good. If you haven't been there,
yeah.
definitely go. And let's see. One of your favorite movies?
Oh, that's a tough one. But if I have to say, not thinking, Casablanca.
Oh, good one. All right. Who wants to ask a question?
And foreign movies, Cinema Paradiso, by far. Like it's a lovely movie.
That'll have to put on my list. Anyone want to ask the question? Come off mute. Otherwise, I'll fire away. Oh, go ahead. Let me see if I can unmute you. Okay, ask your question.
Hey, Maria, thanks so much for, you can hear me okay, right?
Yes, hi.
Thanks so much for sharing. I think that was great with everything there. So one of the questions that I had basically for you here, right? You mentioned how you were involved like in the corporate side when you were working jobs, and so on the launch side of things, right? So when you have a company like, when you're launching like, let's say like a known brand in another country, like, Oreo in Mexico, and so there's all the setup that goes into place for, the launch, and so, and all these things you have to make, you have to make sure are fine, and so forth and so there. So what have you seen being like a difference in the planning process for a launch, right? When it's a established brand, like launching like a product that they've had experience with and they understand the ins and outs of, versus when you're working on your own startup and there's so much uncertainty with it. Like, what do you see like the planning process that happens with like the launch phases on both of them?
That's an excellent question. Thank you. And thanks for being here, spending time with us. In Nabisco, I had a lot of support from the big corporate office in terms of marketing materials and stuff. So I would say that when you have a startup, you have to come up with your own materials, your communication plan. My advice is always go back to basics, and don't spend at the beginning, especially, don't spend a lot in collaterals or stuff like that. It's going to be a waste of your money, pretty much. I mean, there are exceptions. So I would just go into finding that core message you want to convey, and then try to say it as much as you can to as many people as you can. Now with the virtual world and the social media, it's easier and it's tougher, because now social media, they're becoming the problem they started being, and they start hiding your content, so you pay, right? But there's still ways of doing it, and I have to say a lot that your community, whomever your community is, like a small group, and then as it grows, are going to be super crucial in bringing that message out. So I would say the message is probably one of the most important things that I saw a difference, because from Nabisco, it just came all handed to me versus the startup. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great.
And DM me or contact me anyways, if I can be of help in that way.
Sure.
All right, next. And by the way, I think I just did it so you can unmute yourself now. So I think we have, is it Zulima? Yes. Okay, ask away.
That is an entrepreneur right there from Puerto Rico that I love so much.
Thanks. I am a very tired entrepreneur. I have a wellness and beauty line, and I wanted to share that the blessing that Maria has been in my life. I felt like my Medicina brand, which means medicine and it's built on ancestral teachings, went from being a craft pop-up to now we have scaled, and our largest order was 5,000 units. And we did that during the pandemic. And it took words from Maria and having her ask me repeatedly, are you ready to be a millionaire? If you are not, then stop right now. If you are ready, then keep going. So her words ring in my head, and this space that I shared with other vendors because I was afraid that I couldn't fill it. Maria, I know I haven't talked to you in a few days, but I have now taken it over, and we have a shipping department, we have production, we have orders, and we have employees, and we are a year and a half old, and it is wonderful, and I'm exhausted, and I'm holding a full-time job while doing all of that. But y'all get to know Maria. I can't tell you enough. how sincere and real this woman is, and how she will ask you the tough questions and make you uncomfortable, but always from a loving place. So I'm blessed, and y'all get to know this woman. She's so many good things. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Oh, I
Thank you
love
for sharing that. That's one of the highest in my whole life. Thank you.
I love
she has
that.
a wonderful business in Phoenix, by the way, Medicina. It's in Phoenix. She is from Puerto Rico, like I am, and she's going to be one of the Puerto Rican billionaires. You will see.
Congratulations. That's awesome. And during this time, I love it. Linda, let's hear your question. Oh, for some reason, we can't hear you. I don't know. For some reason, we can't. You might have to type your question in the chat.
Okay, I figured it out. I had my phone on mute.
Too many things.
I dial in with the phone, so there was 2 mute buttons. I'm Linda Capcara. I'm with Broder Partners. We're a marketing and communications firm in Phoenix. And Maria, I've heard excellent things about you from many of the members of the startup community. So I joined this webinar to get to know this amazing woman. So thank you. My question is about blockchain technology. It appears that is the premise of the payments is through blockchain. Is that correct? I'm sorry, Bitcoin, is that correct? And what do you see the future of Bitcoin?
Well, there's 2 separate things. Blockchain is behind Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is just one of the applications of blockchain. So the way we are looking at blockchain is to decrease the cost of the transaction and process it. So it's like invisible for the end user, and to make everything just pretty much more manageable. The future of Bitcoin, that would be a thing of itself, and I am probably not the best person to talk about it, other than I think it's going to be here to stay because of the way the world is. But I do not encourage or do not discourage anybody into that. I personally, in our case, we're not going to trade any coins, or it's not going to be, issuing any coins to the market like Bitcoin is. It's more of a process. To give you an example, some companies like IBM are using blockchain, or companies that track inventories and stuff, because it's just a ledger, like any other ledger. So in our case, it's more for managing the back end and decreasing costs. But I see a lot of usage for blockchain technology.
Okay, thanks.
My pleasure.
Right.
And thanks for your kind words too.
Any other questions tonight? We're all hungry for dinner.
Can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Maria, I just wanted to say that I really respect what you do for coming up with an idea that is a solution to people who are perhaps generally overlooked, the musicians and opportunities to tip when you don't have money. I just think that that's incredible. I think for a person to go through the world with the kind of outlook of how can I make something better is an entrepreneur. Secondly, I also love your passion for the commitments and the things that you do to, the volunteer and the entrepreneurial, coming up with ideas to give back. I think one of the things that's hard for me, and I think you hit on it earlier, is I'm passionate about giving back, but it's too early, and you have to make money to take care of other people. And, speaking for myself, I see women sometimes are enablers. And so we just want to take care of everybody, and it's not necessarily the right thing to do all the time. But so sorry, interruption. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you and yay.
interruption.
Me too.
Love it.
So,
Puppy
yeah.
date.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
your kind words. Oh, that's
Yeah.
adorable.
Yeah.
So one thing I have to say is, along the way, my way of giving back is like talking to other entrepreneurs and making sure everybody is, because I get as much from my discussions with other entrepreneurs. So it's not like I am giving, like Zuli was so kind to say those things, but I learned a lot from her too. And asking her the tough questions when she came and asked me for advice was very eye-opening to myself too. So I just do that as a way of belonging to my community. And that's a way where you give back, but also receive back a lot. And you learn a lot by just communicating with other entrepreneurs. Whenever I can, in some of the events that we do to bring Bravo out, so people get to know Bravo, we raise funds for different causes and stuff. So there may be ways to interject into your journey. But what I meant to say is sometimes we want to be so nurturing and so helpful that we end up forgetting the self and the strength of your own company first. And that nothing bad about that, nothing selfish about that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, thank you, Maria, so much with this big launch, taking your time and sharing it with us. There will be a recording, so the people that couldn't join will be able to watch this. I can't wait to see what you do, and can't wait to watercolor with you personally. But
thank you, everybody.
And thank you for all of you participating and sharing your time with us. I'm excited to see you all in person at some point soon. So thank you all. Have a wonderful evening, and thanks for the great questions. See you soon.